So I voted for him twice. Not because of his skin color. I wasn't one of those. I voted for him because he was black. I don't care. Honestly, I know it sounds real cliche. I really don't care about skin color. It doesn't bother me. I did vote for him because of his politics. I did like his campaign finance promises. I did, to a degree, think we needed healthcare reform. I didn't think it was right for companies to deny on pre-existing conditions and just drop coverage for whenever they saw fit. There should have been some regulation. So there's that, the healthcare reform, and then the economy. And there was, this general consensus that it was this rabid deregulating of the financial sector. A lot of it was Clinton. Clinton signed the Bank Modernization Act of 1999, which repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, all that stuff. There was this general sort of awareness that, hey, some deregulation's okay, but this across the board rampant laissez-faire stuff, this is really screwing with us and really screwing with our economy, which I still buy into. I still believe that certain regulation's okay, some regulations not okay, and it does harm business. I like what columnist P.J. O'Rourke once said. It's not that we have too much or too little regulation, it's that we have the wrong kind. When Bush was on his way out of office, Obama was on his way in, I heard his promises, regulate industry, regulate Wall Street, and reform healthcare. I didn't think it'd be like this. Make sure that companies couldn't just screw people over, basically. When I heard criticism, when stuff where, oh, he's a Muslim, and he's a Marxist, and he's a communist, I started to get really upset. I started to get really angry. I started to think, this is how they're distracting the issue. This guy's coming in, he's offering a lot of really good promises. And I remember thinking, this is how they're getting people to forget with kind of this far right sort of laissez-faire approach to the economy. To divert from that, that this guy is there basically to usher in sort of healthy regulations. I would hear, Marxist, communist, he's a plant. And I would say these crazy conspiracy theories. The problem is, they might be right. This guy was born and raised in a cocoon of just vehement communists and Marxists. This is a fact. His dad, his mother, his father figure, role model, everyone, anyone that had any kind of influence over this guy, is a hardcore communist Marxist, and we voted for him. And that's fucked. Even at my most liberal, all right, I'm still a capitalist, and it's always been like that. And I think you can be a liberal capitalist. I think you can, believe in private property and believe in competition and checks and balances and the whole trading system, the whole, entrepreneurial spirit, all that stuff. Wall Street, for the most part, is a great thing. That's an awesome thing. Capitalism, drive. It is why America is the hotbed and is given the world everything. Dude, everything. We gave the world the bulb, the light bulb, the telephone, the computer, the internet, the microprocessor. Everything that is amazing in this world, America gave to it because of capitalism. It's just a fact. And you can be a progressive and a liberal and be okay with that and believe in that. But this guy's not that. I'm sorry. Communism, Marxism is not that. It's different. I was way more progressive like 4 to 8 years ago than I am now. But you could even then I was still capitalism's all right. I mean, you can't have unfettered capitalism. You can't have crony capitalism or or this super Ayn Randian, like 100% deregulated capitalism that's just as radical to the right as communism is to the left. You can have a balance, but the only way you can have that good, healthy balance is with capitalism. Capitalism has some skeletons in the closet. It's responsible in some ways for a lot of deaths. But guess what's responsible for more deaths? Socialism and communism. You can't hold a candle to the amount of deaths socialism and communism have caused. Cumulatively, probably 100 million. 100 million. Capitalism, even America's entire foreign policy, doesn't come close to that amount of deaths. Socialism and communism have created the highest body count you could ever muster. And to have this idea that good people can make it happen. Like, as long as you're good and altruistic enough, you can make socialism work. Socialism has never worked. It's always failed. I don't mean like, socialist programs, socialist policies. I know those to a certain degree work. But like actual socialist societies where there's just socialism, where there's just communism, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it leaves a huge body count. And when you have people that want a solely socialist society, or communist society that basically literally raised the guy that we have in our Oval Office, that is insane. That is insane, and it is crazy. It's why we have, 45 million people on food stamps right now. 45 million people on food stamps. Times are hard. Food stamps aren't the answer. And the justifications for social programs like food stamps is that some people are completely unable to work. They lack the physical or mental capacity to hold a job, or to go out and find a job, or to go out and create a job. They lack that. That can't be 45 million people. If there's 45 million people in this country that are physically and mentally incapacitated to work, that's an epidemic. There's something that's happening right now that's causing 45 million people to not work. That is a sick epidemic. And then the thing with the kids getting food stamps, even if we could afford that, which maybe we can, I don't know. I don't know that much about that part of the debate. Can we afford that? The taxes, the debt, the deficit, all that. Both sides on that issue make a really good argument. That's not the point, though. The point is the impact that has. Having millions of kids have their meals just paid for by the state, and having parents on welfare that don't work as the example, that has such a social impact and a behavioral impact that is just devastating. There's a reason why parents take care of their family. There's a there's a reason why we say things like lead by example. When a child sees their parents not work, or barely work, maybe a few days a week, and then still be supported on top of that has an impact, and it's just devastating. It's just devastating. So there's that, the food stamp stuff, the stuff with Israel. My God. When did liberals start hating Israel so much, man? Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian. I'm not Jewish. It wasn't always like this. liberals, progressives, to hate a culture that represents Western ideals in a land that fully embodies pure savagery against gays, women, is a third world hellhole. And I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Middle East. I'm talking about Islamic countries. Not Islamic people, not Muslims, but countries where Islam is the rule, the law of the land, and the most influential aspect of the culture. All right? The only technological innovation that those countries have is because of Western innovations and Western ideals and Western progress. And it's ironically vilified. It's vilified by those countries. And they have electricity and lights and computers and a decent infrastructure because of the very countries those people hate. Israel fully embodies that. Israel, when you look at that country, scientifically, democratically, socially, they are ahead of, in many ways, the U.S. to hate that country because it defends itself well. Keep in mind, this is after they are almost always attacked first. All right? They are attacked. It's Hamas that breaks the ceasefires. Keep that in mind. All right? And again, I'm not Israeli. I'm not Jewish. But I am an American. And you kind of have to have sort of an appreciation of that country and a love of that country and what they have to put up with. So yeah, there's that, and a lot of that's Obama. Just the idea of an American president hating the Prime Minister of Israel in this climate, that is insane. To team up with Iran and to give Iran nuclear capabilities. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, man. Like we're not even supposed to be negotiating. This isn't even an issue. This isn't a question. To have a country that is constantly wished for your death and is constantly promised to remove Israel and the United States off the face of the planet. And this isn't just crazy extremists. This isn't their rabble. This isn't their crazy rabble-rousers. This is their government. This is the most influential political force in that country, and their very president saying this. That they not only say this and promise this, but they fund it. They fund organizations that do this, that try to kill Israel and America and remove it off the face of the planet and its influence over the world. To have a United States president that says, yeah, you can go nuclear, it's fine. Just don't build weapons. Please don't build weapons. Okay. See, they said okay. So they're not going to build weapons. They promised us. The fact that this is a huge media campaign, that we're talking about this, and that this, and it's drawn out, and it's long drawn out. Oh, he's the weapons. Oh, this is controversial. Well, should we do this? Like the way that the fact that this is even a discussion and that this has gone beyond anything more than no. No. Hey, we're Iran. Can we have nuclear capabilities? No. See, that's in a normal, rational world. The country that constantly promises to remove Israel off the face of the planet wants nuclear capabilities? No. Anything after no is insane. But in this world, we're using it as, it's like normal, and we're reading about it in the news, and it's like, okay. So there's that. Another thing, the immigration thing. I wish it were an immigration thing. I say immigration thing like it's an immigration issue. It's not, because there's a huge difference between immigration and amnesty. I love immigrants. I fucking love immigrants. I love immigrants of all different colors. White, Hispanic, Asian, Persian, whatever. Who gives a shit? It's beautiful. We're a melting pot. There's a difference between immigration, where you have legal citizens that come here legally and assimilate to a first world society, and people from the third world who are not assimilating and who are doing third world things. Having 5 children that you can't afford is bad and is having a very severe economic impact. When you see communities here that have come from these countries, they mirror the country they came from. I went to Ellis Island, and I saw where my ancestors came in. It was awesome. It was the coolest experience. We walked around the lines to where they, with all these probably hundreds, maybe 1,000 people waited, and it was amazing. You get filled with such a sense of patriotism. And then there's this area where you go and you go on the computer and you can look at those ship manifests. It's awesome. Like you see the documents where your ancestors actually came, and it's amazing. Like I saw the names. I saw the names of my ancestors, and there's a reason for all that. And it's not for me to be all happy and giddy like I am now. Like, it's cool, and I suggest that everyone do it, but that's not why. It's why it's a tourist attraction now. It's why they're probably turning over a decent buck now, why it's a tourist attraction, getting some revenue from the state. But back then, they didn't do that stuff back then for tourists. There's a very specific reason why there were documents upon documents upon documents of stuff that I can look over now. Reasons why there were these cattle lines, and there was a reason why you could only do it a certain way. And there was a reason why there was all this documentation. It wasn't so we can look back in history and all that stuff. Like, that's great, but that's not why. They didn't do that back then for that. It was for documentation. It was so you could be put on the books. If you go there, you can read. Like, there's so much information. You knew exactly where these people were going. You did. You actually literally knew. You could read where they were going, where they were coming from. You knew all these questions that they had to answer. Like, you knew about them. And not just the people themselves, but you knew exactly how many people were coming into your country. With government agencies and private companies, There was the infrastructure, what the country can handle, what certain communities can handle, regarding commercial enterprises, regarding jobs, capacity, all that. Government, business owners, they had to have a good idea. When you hear people talk about illegal immigration, they say 10 to 20 million. They say 10 to 20 million because no one has any idea. It's important to know these things. Like I said, there's a reason why if you look at the communities where these illegal immigrants are forming, there's specific cultural practices, I'm sorry, that are not good, that are inferior. All races are equal. Everyone's equal. All races are equal. Somebody's skin pigment doesn't determine who they are, what they're going to be, what they're going to accomplish. It's just not. I mean, scientifically, that doesn't make sense to say that some races, but cultures, some cultures are not as good as everyone else. There are cultures in the Middle East that allow you to kill a woman for adultery. It's state sanctioned. That's a fucked up culture. That is an inferior cultural practice. If I with my fiance, if we move to Mexico, we know zero Spanish, we know zero about Mexican culture, the way of life, what's good for that country. We don't have any type of higher education or expertise. We only have the aptitude and the skill set for a menial position. And I and my fiance, we can barely get by. We are lucky enough to get a job that pays us just enough for rent and maybe food. We're barely squeaking by. Maybe we're taking welfare if the Mexican government even gives us that. All right? What's the next wisest decision? Pump out 5 kids? That's not right. It would not be right for me to do that. I'm admitting this. I'm admitting that it would not be right for me to do that. That's logical, and it's sensible, and it's responsible. Then why is it when I hold somebody else who just happens to be a different skin color going to a different country that I'm then racist? It doesn't make any sense. That brings me sort of to my next point. This racism thing. I never saw this coming. I expected Obama to be above this race-baiting bullshit. Voting for Obama, even at my most liberal, I never saw him courting Al Sharpton.
You a punk faggot! Now come on, do something!
And that's a whole different can of worms. But basically, I'll say this. I'm just going to say this. When I see a white family, or when I see a white guy, or a white criminal, or any kind of white person acting like a fucking savage, acting like a piece of shit, antagonizing cops, doing something, acting in a way, in a behavior that warrants them getting shot by a police officer, it's exactly that. It's exactly that. They are an individual. Their skin color has nothing to do with it. They are an individual that is acting like a punce and is making a series of horrible decisions that have led up to him being gunned down or arrested. Now, when I hold a white guy up to those standards, I'm doing exactly that. But when I hold a black guy up to the same standards, I'm being racist? Are you serious? And then to have the president back up this type of mentality, that's crap. That's a bunch of crap. I didn't vote for that. I did not vote for that. According to the FBI and Bureau of Justice statistics, more white people are actually gunned down by cops every year than black people. And about 200 black people are, give or take, are murdered by police officers every year. 7,000 are murdered by criminals. 7,000. Anytime a black man is unjustly murdered by a racist police officer, that is a travesty. And that's wrong. And that should never happen in this society. But if you're going to bring that up, and if you're going to make that a huge issue in the media, then you got to make the 7,000 blacks murdered by criminals just as important. I mean, you have to. Logically, sensibly, you have to. To care about 200 black people who were murdered by cops more than these 7,000 that were murdered by criminals, that's it just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. So yeah, there's that. There's the race baiting stuff. Booker T. Washington, actually, a black leader in 1911, said something amazing to this effect. He basically talks about how they're race baiters and how it's their job to basically keep the whole racial stuff alive. And so yeah, there's that. I didn't vote for Obama to be a race baiter. His language as far as uniting the races, and I liked that. But this constant for an American president to vilify police officers, it's just shameful. And this witch hunt in Ferguson is just shameful. Like I said, more white people are gunned down by cops, and most of them, I would say, most white people who are gunned down by cops every year deserve it, and fuck them. You know what? Fuck them. They made a series of horrible choices that led to them being gunned down, and fuck them. They're criminals. I'm sorry. When I say the same about blacks, I shouldn't be accused of being a racist. It just, logically, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of stuff that an anti-American Muslim communist would do that this guy's kind of doing. I mean, he's not going all out, thank God. I'm sorry. As being one of the tens of millions of people, I know it's just one out of like tens upon tens of millions and millions of people that voted for Obama. It's just one guy. But I'm sorry. Lesson learned. I kind of hope we have an America where we get to practice that learned lesson. This rant's getting pretty long now. Yeah, I'm sorry for voting for Obama. Thanks for listening if you listen this long.